Hey guys, it's Caro, and these are foxtails. So it's July 5th. I didn't get to do a vlog yesterday, but determined to do two today so I can make up for it. But anyway, these are foxtails. This is an Arctic fox, and these are two kit foxes. Foxtails are really common, and you can see them pretty often in things like Ren fairs or other types of, arts and crafts fairs and so on. There's a reason that they're so common. It's actually because they're not a usable part of the fur. So when you're ranching foxes and other animals actually for fur, it's a body fur that's useful. Usually the tails are not really able to be used anything because they don't have enough skin backing. So if you look at the way that tails are, even though it's a very puffy tail, there's actually a very little skin in there. And this makes it very difficult to make this into, say, a sleeve or a fur stole or, or even a fur collar. So a lot of times they're sold as souvenirs or sort of on their own as novelties or, items like that. Anyway, I've given out a couple of foxtails in mystery boxes, and I've never really had a chance to talk about them. And, I always wanted to. And you might be asking, they're just foxtails. What's so cool about foxtails? Well, there's something really interesting about them. So if you look at most foxtails, you'll see a black patch near the middle of the tail. This one has it too. Sometimes it's a squiggle, but other times it's like a distinct patch. But it's generally always there, and that's actually true for most of the animals in the dog family. For coyotes, for wolves, a lot of dog breeds have very distinct patches. The next time you see photos of wolves, or if you see a German Shepherd or something, look for this, because it's not just a coloration on the fur. It's actually a gland on the tail. So underneath the fur, there's a gland called the violet gland, and what it does is that it secretes an oil that fluoresces ultraviolet. I know that seems weird, but it's true. And even if they don't have a visible black patch on their tail, like the Arctic fox right here, they still have it. We're not sure what the oil really does, but we know that it fluoresces, and by fluorescing, I mean that it actually glows under ultraviolet light. And what they'll do is that they'll actually leave the oil on items in the environment and sort of mark their territories with it. We don't really know how. There's not a lot of research into it, but we know that it happens. And also, it's something that is common not only to members of the dog family, but also a number of other mammals. A couple of the big cats have it. Pretty much all dogs will have it. If you have a dog with like a short coat, like say like a Weimaraner or a Rhodesian Ridgeback Dalmatian, they'll often have like a bare patch on their tail near the middle that will be the violet gland. But anyway, it's interesting because a lot of, we think of the world in the way that we see it, but a lot of animals actually see into the ultraviolet spectrum. So they're able to see this light range that we are unable to see. And they would actually be able to see that glow as a visible element in their environment. So, think that if you think about it and think about, I guess, how other animals would view these things, these animals that actually have glowing tails within the ultraviolet, if you were able to see into the ultraviolet spectrum, yes. So, and it kind of reminds me of, if you guys are familiar with Pokemon, there's a Pokemon called Umbreon that is a fox with like a glowing ring on its tail, and yeah, and it's actually it's a real thing, and it's pretty interesting. I wish there was more research into specifically what the marking was for and how they used it, but at this point we don't know too much about it. We just know that the gland itself glows. The fur along the dark area does so as well, and so does the oil that it exudes. And they'll leave it, within the environment on trees and bushes and so on, and places that they pass through. So yeah, so foxes are actually, animals with glowing tails that leave glowing trails. So pretty neat. These are foxtails. Look at that.